Well, thank you so much and a very good morning. Welcome to UBC TV. It is Good Morning Uganda Extra today again. My name is Jagenda Semakola Zikusoka, and of course with me in studios is Mr. Julius Mukunda, the ED of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group. Now it is 6th today of this month of July, and tomorrow is State of the Nation Address. His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda will be speaking to the nation and of course opening the second session of the 11th Parliament. That will be tomorrow at Kolola, and of course next week on Tuesday. At such a time, we'll be also getting our budget for the financial year 2022-2023. And with me in studios is one of Uganda's budget experts. You're very welcome, Mr. Mukunda. Happy to have you again.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
Thank you so much. Happy to have you today, and of course on another very a lovely day. According to the Minister of Health, Dr. Janotha Cheng Ochero, COVID is again spiking. It's coming back, and we need to take personal responsibility. Did you vaccinate?
Yes.
Both?
Both.
Fully vaccinated?
Fully vaccinated,
You're good
yes.
to go?
I'm good to go.
Okay.
And I encourage everybody to do that.
That's why we're actually putting on masks.
Yes.
Some other people would say, why put on a mask now and why put on a mask at this time? We're putting on masks because we are told cases are again back, and it should be personal responsibility now. Let's get into the budget. It's State of the Nation Address tomorrow, and of course what we expect to hear from the President is he's going to give us how we've performed the state of affairs actually from when we got the budget last year to tomorrow, where we shall again be crowning the financial year.
Yes.
Just before we get into what is ahead of us, how do you think we've actually performed?
I think the last 2 years really have been very difficult, both for the economy and for its people. But again, I think when you compare yourself with others, then you are likely to say, okay, I think we are doing much better than the rest of the people. But I think the biggest element, what probably the President is having in his mind, is how to communicate this particular message of saying, okay, good, this is how we performed. and I think in terms of, if you look at, in terms of the budget, of course, we are still running on a 44 trillion the budget that we had, that is ending at the end of June. Economy, of course, the effects of COVID, and I was telling people that COVID effects actually are starting to come now, not last time. You know, it's like in a household when you have a problem and you go to rely on your granary. Until the granary is finished is when now you begin to see the ugly eye of
the
that.
Granary is finished and there's nothing in the garden.
And there is nothing in the garden. That is the problem. But coupled with that, of course, is the Ukrainian war that has come up. Okay. And it is a war where we have no role to play. We only play that these guys can stop fighting, and then we can be able to get some fuel and also some wheat and the rest of the work. Because right now, the inflation, we are being told that by last week it had reached at 6.3%. So you are beginning to get worried and say, okay, where is it likely to end? And you saw also the Bank of Uganda, Central Bank, also increasing its CBR rate, the interest, the central bank, the central bank rate. And those are not good news. Those are not good news. You want the interest rates to be low, so that it can be able to influence the interest rates in the banks, our commercial banks. And once the interest rates in commercial banks are also low, then our businessmen and women can be able to get in the banks, borrow money, and start business. But when they are high, it means that you are informing the commercial banks, please go slow on your lending, on your lending money. And once that is done, and you see, Uganda, it's a bit different. Usually is when the central bank has reduced its CBR, you want the other banks to follow suit, but they follow very slow. But the moment it increases, they increase very fast. We don't know why they do that. So that is an area I think the President really is going to have to communicate to us and tell us that the ease of doing business in the country, the cost of doing business in the country must remain very low, and must remain very easy for us to be able to run, because no businesses, I can tell you, no business runs without a credit, without borrowing money, so that you can be able to increase your production. The good news is we've been able to produce our own food. And I think for me, that's why you find that even the effects of COVID have not hit us so much, because Uganda were able to produce our own food. Our biggest challenge, I think, is the market. So I want to see how, in terms of marketing, how we can be able to work out the market business. Because why is it that right now I'm being told that in Chiruhura milk is at its lowest, around 1,800 per liter, and then I'm like, why how could that happen? So how could you be able to ensure that the markets, both internal here and also outside, we're able to capture that? I'm very happy that I saw for the first time the DRC Uganda Business Summit.
For the first time? For
the first time, I'm like, okay, it is. I think I congratulate Anita, because really for me is, we can't go there, pacify the country,
then come back and sleep.
Build their roads, and then we come back and sleep.
They leave it for somebody else to
invest, and somebody else goes and begins to enjoy. And I think it was a very good thing that we can be able to take our business and do that.
Okay, Julius, you know, here is where we are today, and of course, you know, when we plan for budgets, whenever we do budgets and do all these plans, we are progressive. Just like we are living a life. Whether you've gone to school this year or not, you're actually aging. Whether you've built a house or not, you were 40 the other year, you're 40 this year. Whether you've had a child or not, you grow. Life has to continue. Similarly to the budgets in here. But 2 years ago, when we're just getting into 2020 series now, we had floods, we had the water rising levels, we had the locusts, we had all the things, and of course COVID came in and shut down almost everything. Now we're trying to jump out of COVID. Now we have the war in Ukraine and etc. Given all the things, and of course we as Ugandans keep talking about, and we take pride in having enough food and producing enough food. But here is where we are today, that even when we have the food, we are having issues and problems of actually even being able to afford the food itself that we're talking about. Now, the time now is not the time as it was during COVID time, because during COVID, there was a lot of food for everybody that you could even give your food on credit. It's a little different now, that you must have the money, you must reach out your pockets to get this food and to get all these things. What are we learning as economists and leaders, as politicians, as societal managers of this country? What are we doing? What are we learning from all these events to be able to actually go forward?
I think for me is, there's something we have not learned in this country. Maybe that is also another learning that we are not learning in this country. What we are not learning in this country is that Ugandans can actually work on their own if given the right environment. And I have seen this. I was in Padero one time, I think 6 years ago, and Cotton Development Authority had brought a new program. Produce cotton, we will buy it at this price. The first season, very few people did it. And Cotton Development Authority immediately bought all the cotton that they had promised people to buy. The second season, every person in the Padere district started growing cotton. And Cotton Development Authority bought the cotton. The neighboring districts also started in the third season. Now, Cotton Development Authority was overwhelmed, and they only bought half. The fifth season, nobody planted the cotton. What does it tell you? It tells you that if you provide the market for anything, even if it is just growing, even if it's just putting together stones, Uganda is able to do that. So our problem is marketing, period. Let nobody deceive you that we have a problem with extension, we have a problem with the acaricides. Farmers will look for the right acaricides, we look for the right extension officers. Even you, Nagenda, you will go back to the village and start growing what is on the market. So our biggest challenge right now, I think, is for me to see government putting a lot of interest in looking for markets for our products. We should not be suffering because Kenya has refused to take our poultry. Why? Why do we want to rely on Kenya? Why? And we know for the last 10 years, they have been giving us headaches. We know Tanzania every time, because we are running same economies. We are running the same economies. They have their dairy, we have our dairy. Selling their milk means that we have to sell at a cheaper price than theirs. And they are distorting their market. The only thing we can be able to get out of this quagmire is for us to give the number one key performing indicator for any ambassador of Uganda should be how much money, how many exports, how many crops, how many products are you selling on behalf of Uganda. And that must be Ugandan products. We know Nigeria wants milk, Nigeria wants poultry, Nigeria wants oranges. They actually import them from Brazil. So if you are an ambassador in Nigeria, why can't our government really help you establish markets? We have the best pineapples in the whole world. They will tell you that. And we take our pineapples to Nigeria, our pineapples to Japan. But the Japanese will tell you, I want a squared watermelon. Squared watermelon. Yes, it's because for them, and I only want one of 0.5 kilogram. You know, watermelon can weigh almost 5 kilograms. Help our farmers to produce that, because that's what the market wants. It's not that every watermelon is going to be sold. So I think for me, we are missing that as the very big ingredient to lift the 39% of our population that is still in subsistence farming, that can uplift the 8.3 million people who are still in the poverty. That is our game changer, and I want it to be seen to be done like that. So that's one key learning that we have not learned. The second item is allocations, and now I think we are in what we call distortion in allocating priorities.
I thought we had moved now to that. We had planned that now, that we do. We used to, what do you call it? Sector planning, or
we are in sector. We are in a program. We've shifted to that to say that if this child has to finish successfully a primary school, for example, he must be or she must be immunized, isn't it? There must be wash facilities in that school. That the parents must be well educated enough and aware that it is important to take both a boy and a girl
to appreciate
the importance of education. That the road to that primary school is clear, is cut. That's community access roads. So it meant that it's just not about bringing a teacher and building a school and you think kids will go to school and learn. No. That school also must eat properly, nutrition. So that's what they call program approach to budgeting. That health, water, Ministry of Gender, Social Development, and Education Ministry, you must sit together
and
plan for this kid to finish school. And that is a very big achievement. Everybody, of course, is fighting it because people are, there were small governments.
People are fighting that?
Oh, seriously, because small government, it is my mandate, it is my mandate, it is my mandate. You are all taking this kid to school. And you think a kid going to school is for education.
Because in this school there must be electricity, in this school there must be sanitation, in this school there must be water, in this school
must deliver as one for this kid
in this school.
So imagine
there has to be
you imagine this kid, you've built a school, put scholastic materials, everything is there, but the kid is not immunized. 2 to 3 years down the road they get polio. Are they going to school? 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, the parents are not going to take the kid to school. You will still remain with the buildings. And that's what we are suffering. Even with the health centers. You build the health center, you forget that it must be connected to water. So you did not consult the Ministry of Water and Environment to make sure that there is a water line that is going to that particular health center. A theater will never work without water, for example. So you can buy the best equipment, put them there. If there is no tap of water, they will lock it up until they get it, and we know it is happening in some places. So that program approach is key and important to our country. But I think what is missing are those distortions in allocations. At this particular moment, where would you be putting most of your resources? That's something I think where, and I think we're having a conversation. What is the best thing that we are doing?
What do we have?
You can't touch it. We are almost best in everything. And probably when you say everything, probably there is nothing.
Exactly, because there are countries that will tell you this country market is this country. Their leverage is on this particular. What we have as Uganda. So we keep talking about watermelon, we talk about pineapples, we talk about oranges, we talk about each and everything. Now, when we talk about the parish development model, we got those commodities. And
And I think for me there are even too many.
Exactly. They became so many. Everybody wants their avocado, everybody wants their
every village wants their own things.
Virtually everything that is in this country has become... so where are we? You the planners help us in Dugum.
I think, I mean, we have coffee. We pride ourselves with coffee. So everybody says coffee, 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 coffee. But my friend, not everybody is growing coffee in this country. And people, I know a friend of mine in the village who says, I can't go for coffee. I say, why? Because when I don't have money to buy food, I can't eat coffee. I rather engage myself in beans, peas, millet, because when things go bad, I'll go and pick a cup of beans and can cook it for children to eat. So I think we need to identify what we are good at. If it is pineapples, if it is beans, if it is maize, if it is wheat, we need to identify those core things that we are very good at and go ahead and seriously implement. It doesn't mean we should leave others, but we must give a priority. And there is one fellow who was saying that we must have a sector that we are investing in heavily for a particular period of time. And I have said it in this studio, that there are things we want to do what others are doing, which is okay. Like dealing in technology, for example, building of cars and buses, and it is okay, it is fine. But there are things where we have a very huge advantage from other countries, and other countries want us to do that. And that is agriculture. For example, we would say that in the next 5 years, the first call on our budget and the biggest spender on our budget is going to be in agriculture. And we go in full blast, like how we have done with infrastructure. Because for the last 10 years, for heaven's sake, we've built roads. And there is something we can show about the roads, isn't it? We have challenges, but there is something we can show about roads for the last 5 years. If I mean, it would take you a day and a half from Chisoro to here. It takes you half a day. It would take you from here to Entebbe Airport. You remember. It would even take you more than an hour to reach Entebbe Airport. It now takes you 20 to 30 minutes to reach the airport. And that is movement of goods and people means that also the cost of doing business also improves. So we've done what we have done on infrastructure, even including energy. I think we have also done that. The biggest challenge, I think, in energy that we did not complete the whole project cycle. And that's what I was telling in terms of allocation distortions. You start building a dam, and you think once you build the dam and finish it, then electricity has come. You have the electricity, it is not distributed, it is not transmitted. So it is generated and kept there. You've generated it, it has stayed there, and the person who has generated electricity begins demanding money from you because the contract you signed was that please generate this amount of electricity, which I will pay you. Which they are doing. The guy is doing it, but that electricity is still at the dam. You forgot that you needed also to plan and transmit it. Not only that, but distribute it to the last consumer, to your house. And once it is not in your house, even if you transmit it, then you are not consuming it, then it has no purpose. It has no value. So we could fix those ones. But I think it is important that as a government, as Uganda, the way we are, when you look at this parish development model, call me next year at the same time. 90% of the money people are going to get will be in agriculture. Period. Will be in agriculture. Very few people will go for bricklaying, will go for carpentry, will go for fabrication of metals. 90% of the people that will get parish development model money, agriculture, will go to plant tomatoes, maize, matoke, poultry, piggery, etc. That's where they are going to, because that's what they know. That's where they are comfortable in. Therefore, if that is in the mindset of every Ugandan, of the majority of Ugandans, I would have liked to see government right now putting more emphasis, one, on ensuring that there is no counterfeit products, agricultural products, on the market. For example, that if we get you selling fake inputs, let us take you and let us show you to Ruzira. Actually, I would have loved to see that government put so much money to build a very big prison for those kind of people. Those are the people holding us to grow. I can tell you the truth. Personally, I have experience. I went I love fruits, to plant a mango tree in my compound. The person told me this mango tree in 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
You start harvesting.
You start harvesting, and they will bring so
huge mangoes.
The huge mangoes, each half a kilogram.
Yeah. They have that very good rhetoric.
I said, oh, I started it. I put it there 6 months, and the thing is not even growing up. I took care of it, gave it all the fertilizers, whatever it meant to give it. 2 years down the road, the thing is not even 2 meters. Now it even grew, became a huge tree that now you have to climb to pick a mango that is there. And the first bunch that came were go, the smaller ones. So if you are a farmer, you've cleared 10 acres to plant mangoes in 6 months. You've got a loan from a commercial bank. They have agreed to give you a grace period of 1 year. 2 years down the road, there is no mango coming. Why can't we really hang that kind of a person? Throw you in a very big jail and you stay there forever. This is what's happening to each and every farmer in this country.
Julius Anyise.
So if you want the punishment to work, let me tell you, that's how strictly you can be.
Yes.
We find you selling fake inputs. That actually I would have loved to see money allocated for building a very big hospital to support our friend, the Commissioner General of Prisons. He's got to do his goal. Particularly for that, because if we don't do that, we won't come back here and start lamenting about the parish.
How is our budget, the 2022-2023 budget? Because I think that's where we are, that's where we're going. And like we've always talked about this, we call these budgets pro-people, but at the end of the day, we again discuss and talk about our priorities. Now we're going to hear the same things. So much has gone into the Ministry of Works, so much has gone into security, so much has gone into health, so much has gone into all that. Now, even those in health, health clients, health providers, health consumers, and whatever, they want to look at how much salaries they're actually getting, because we're going to get a budget a few days after we've had a series of strikes from different workers. And what we look at here is how about our salaries? When the president was reading to us the budget for the State of the Nation address last year, he hinted about the salaries for scientists. And he said, I think it should go to, I think, 4 million for regular scientists, then to the researchers. I think it goes to 15 million shillings like they are given in universities. We had all these things. And 1 year later, of course, these people have not received their money. I'm sure that's why they're striking and doing all the things too. We're getting back there again. And so with all this, so much, we have a budget of about 48 trillion. Next year it will be possibly 60 trillion. The other year it will be anything. But the effect of it to the public and the population.
To pay more. you know, it has increased. It was the one that is ending was 44
trillion.
Now we are on 48.1. Here is the catch. We are not increasing any taxes. We are not introducing new taxes. And this was in the spirit of recovery. If you are out of the hospital, definitely you won't expect to start running. You recover properly, and then you can be able to produce. And I think that's a very good signal on the part of government. No new taxes, and the other sinful taxes like mobile money. No.
The OTTs and
stuff like that. We're not being surprised. I think that's a very, very good move. Let's get to do that. But so where will the money going to come from? That means we're going to borrow it. I think there's something exciting in the budget, which I'm really looking forward to here, and that's the parish development model. And for me, is Jag and really between me and you is that for the first time in this country since independence, a Ugandan is going to share directly from the national resource.
For the first time?
For the first time.
And will they share?
Directly. Directly. People will say, oh, there were other programs and microfinance, those ones. But for directly, that you have a group of people seated in a village, receiving 200 million shillings, and beginning to plan how to spend it.
Direct from the national coffers?
Directly from the national coffers. People determining their own destiny. That is empowering. And when I hear stories, the stories are so diverse. And that also shows the strength of this country. In my village, people are saying, find very much. For us to grow a lot of matoke, we want marketing. They will hire a truck, bring matoke to Kampala. Because matoke in my village a bunch is 1,000. In Kampala, 30, 40. So they will get one of their boys, give him a truck, go to Kampala, say, bring back our money. Perfect. You hear people from the north. I mean, they say, oh, do you know what? I think beekeeping, I think this GNAT pest is our thing. Internally here, we don't have the right machinery to do this. So we're going to buy the right machinery, increase on the quality, and start exporting. That is empowering. And that's what they call local economic development. So you're going to tell everybody, please plant more groundnuts, plant more simu, because we've got the right machine to do that. I'm looking forward the outcome of this particular.
Shall we manage to do it this time around, Julius? Because about 20 years ago, in 1998, we got a very big fund from IFAD to do what they call the Vegetable Oils Development Project, the VODP. And then we had one, and I think two. That's a project that we took to Kalangala, for Ibinazi, and to Vuma. Then we zoned the country and saw that northern Uganda, the northern region, we can have all these
oil seeds.
All the oil seeds. And today we are here, we are discussing Ruto, cooking oil. But 20 years ago, we planned and said this should be here and this should be there, and put in a lot of money. How do we even convince our people, Julius, that we still have the will to do all the things, even when we do the planning and tell the people, and we are the same people. We are the same people who have been implementing the VODP. We are the same people who have been planning for all these things. We are still the same people who are actually planning and doing and going to implement the parish development model. How do we convince the people, or how do we even convince ourselves this time round that yes, we will do the right things today?
I want to look at it in two ways. Had we not planned, where would we be? I think we also need to, as you're going to think about, let's say we had not planned for Karangar.
Where would we be?
I think we would be in a very, very bad situation. Very bad situation.
If there's no plan for Karangar.
If we did plan, we can say, thank you very much, we achieved 50%. I think that's something we should be proud of, that we really planned. But we can do better. And that's why I was saying that this business of people in the government sleeping on their jobs, and then we keep on rewarding them, is very dangerous for us. We are being kept in poverty simply because somebody is sleeping on the job. Because if Karangara and Vuma really worked the way they are, why couldn't we successfully plan the similar one in northern Uganda, where we know the weather is perfect and the weather is fine? Why couldn't we do that properly? Somebody is sleeping on the job. And that is my problem. When I see accounting officers, really, you are running a project, it is money from government, it is a loan of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, you've been applying for an extension every year, and you are at 10% performance, and you are still an accounting officer? No way. Such a person, once you have not performed, please leave the place. They should be kicked out, bring somebody else, like what we are talking about in football. Get somebody else to help us move forward. And I think one of the biggest reforms we need to do in this country is how to fire civil servants. You can't fire a teacher, let me tell you.
In this country?
You can never fire a teacher in this country. The best they can do is to transfer the incompetence from one school to another. But to fire him from the payroll, forget about it. You cannot. I think the biggest reform we need to do in this country is to put a clause on how to fire people.
And stop them off.
And for me, is the first thing is everybody should be on a contract, period.
In this country?
This business of pensionable and
permanent and pensionable.
Permanent and pension should be thrown into the... modern countries no longer do those things. Because technologies are improving, environment is changing, you need new people to adapt to do new things. It doesn't mean that if you are a veteran, you are just... No, if you are performing, it's not about being a veteran. If you are performing to your job. But year in, year out, the auditor general comes and says, this department, you give it a qualified audit. You give it 4 years down the road, and you are still an accounting officer, wasting government money. So I think that's a fundamental challenge the president must address. If you are not performing, please step aside. Let us move, because we are poor, not because we don't have the knowledge, not because we don't have money, not because we lack the ideas. We are just being kept in poverty because somebody is sleeping on the job. If you are given a project The Auditor General tells us that 40% of our projects are on time. 40%.
On time?
It means that you are likely to complete it on time. Only 40. The rest are not. What does that tell you if you're an accounting officer?
If you're building 10 roads, you can only manage 4 roads on time.
Only 4 roads will finish on time.
What
the
happens
rest
with 6 roads?
Are overtime, above the cost, will never get finished. And you have Busega Bridge Express. It was commissioned 6 years ago. You can't even calculate that the equipment has been finished.
Are you sure?
Yes, go there. The northern bypass was supposed to have completed in 5 years. It took 20 years to finish it. I was comparing it with the Uganda Railways from Kisumu to from Mombasa to here. So really, if you are an accounting officer, and it's a classic example is, you want to build a project and you have no visibility study. That's number one. When you have no visibility study, it means that you are like a ship without a compass. You're just building without a compass. Because once you reach there, you'll find out that there is a river. So you didn't plan to put a bridge. So you go back and say, by the way, we need a bridge there. So you change the contract. Then the contract a bit goes up. So I think it's quite very important that we want to see more of these reforms happening. I'm glad I'm seeing Ministry of Finance trying to put together some of these, especially in PIM, public investment management reforms, whereby you have an integrated bank project, whereby projects can be picked that are already ready. But the problem is that then you hear a new project has come from somewhere and it is already in the budget. So that's one exciting example of partnership development I was telling you. And the other element, I think, is for the first time we are seeing human capital development, that is health and education, getting the second
the second biggest share.
The second biggest share of the budget. No, actually the first. It is the first, 18.1%. It is the first, followed by security and governance. And I think we need to build capacities of our Ugandans to be able to deliver. Let us have the right education. Let us ensure that everybody is immunized. Let us ensure that medicines are in hospital. Let us ensure that I usually underrated the mindset change. And until I saw what people were talking about during COVID, that you are not going to get immunized. And people really opposed to get immunized at all. and people have their own arguments anyway. And it really told me that, okay, if somebody is arguing on this on COVID, what about mindset change on business, how to do business, for example? What about mindset change on ensuring that everybody goes to school, for example? And I realize that we really, really need to educate our population on and appreciate what development entails. That you don't need to have jiggers and you think you have been bewitched because you have jiggers. I mean,
you sleep with your dogs and your cats and your pigs and everything in the same house.
In the same house, and then
so it can't be witchcraft.
So and then for you say it is witchcraft. So you go to the witch person. I don't know.
Or to a pastor to be prayed for.
Yes, exactly. So
to be delivered.
And these things happen in the Ugandan society. So I think it's important that we invest a lot in mindset change. Except, what are we teaching? What kind of information are we also delivering? I think it's quite very, 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 very important that we have a national curriculum about mindset change on how people should be able to appreciate development and how they can take advantage of it. Because it's one thing to bring the benefits of budget across the people, and it's the other people to agree and uptake them. I can give you an example is, you go Masaka, Kampala Masakambara Road and see how many beautiful roadside markets have been built but are not occupied. And then there is a makeshift market. Dirty, filthy, poor hygiene.
It has everybody there. It's congested.
Everybody is there. And you ask, why? Your government. But it's your money as a taxpayer, because you consumed the salt, you consumed the sugar, you bought things in the shop, you paid VAT indirectly for that market to be built for you. And people don't want to use it. So it dawned to me that actually our biggest problem in this country is about mindset change, how to do business. You don't go to the bank, for example, to borrow money with the purpose of not paying back. text there, please. You have to.
No, people get money from money lenders and they pray for them to die. You want to hear that the person who gave you money has actually died.
I mean, I'm impressed that you can agree with me in terms of the importance of mindset change in this country. If we can't do that, we are not going to take advantages of the benefits that come with the budget. Of course, this budget is coming with its own challenges and problems.
Okay. I wanted to actually hear the challenges of the budget that we have in the coming budget.
I think the biggest challenge, of course, is corruption. And I think we need to get head on. And I have said it time and again that in this country, you see, everything evolves. Everything becomes sophisticated. It's no longer about you picking money and run away. You need to, you plan. Is it a planning period, plan for corruption? Is it time for budgeting? Budget for corruption. Is it plan for appropriation at parliamentary level? Make sure it is appropriated. Is it time for execution? Make sure it is executed, your corruption is executed. Is it time for auditing? Make sure it is also audited properly. So at the end of the day, that is a very huge leakage that goes unnoticed because it has been planned so perfectly and so well. So for example, if this pen is costing 1,000 Ugandan shillings, and for me at the planning stage, I have put 10,000 Ugandan shillings. At the planning stage? At the planning stage. So it means that if I need 10 pens of this, I need 100,000. But instead of 10,000. So at the budgeting, I put 100,000. When you go to Parliament, I need 10 pens, it's 100,000. Parliament appropriates and gives a tick. At execution, remember I had my 100,000 to buy 10 pens. You go ahead and buy your 10 pens at 100,000 because I know the company that is going to supply these 10 pens at this particular amount of money. And maybe I become a bit sophisticated. I say, you know, this pen writes very smoothly, the ink is well, and it's this color, so it goes through. When the auditor comes, what will he do? You planned for it, you budgeted, it was appropriated. They'll see it in the plans, they'll see it in everything. And then the auditor will also give it a tick. You walk home with your 90,000 as corrupt money. So that is the huge hole in this particular budget. I'm talking about pens. We're going to talk about vehicles. 60 to 70% of this budget is about procurement.
I was actually coming to procurement because I think one of the things that even the European Union is grappling with is procurement. They may not have the obvious corruption like we do have it, but they are also struggling with corruption in their procurement systems. And I think that's why it goes, because everything that you talk about here, you will say this is a government entity and we just need to buy a smartphone. You can't just walk out of here and go to any Samsung shop or any shop around here and say, give us a phone for how much, 1 million, then you walk out as if you're taking it to your girlfriend or your wife or your mother as a gift. The procurement processes, and all the things, you get to getting another budget when there's so much things that you've not done. And of course, with the procurement itself, how much is into procurement and how does it even help us and what do we need to do? Because I will tell you, procurement also helps us with the bureaucracies and to fight corruption in a way, which I think is true. But I think it's also another avenue again.
Of course, yes. To buy a pen in the government can take you 6 months. Just a pen. So imagine if you want to procure a very complex project like a dam. How long it is going to take you? I mean, to take you a million years to be able to complete that one. And I think one of the reforms that is very exciting that has come up is electronic government procurement portal.
The EG portal.
The EG portal.
EG government portal.
I think that is going to solve 50% of our problem. Why? Because now we know who has applied, who has bidded. Because we didn't know them previously. It is going to be public. We know what the committee has decided on the bidding process. We know who has won the bid and for what reason.
We know who has put in what.
We know what you have put in and how much you are going to get. That we know. So that makes the procurement process more transparent. And the bit with even the EGP is that it is owned by Uganda. You might say, what is your problem with that one? The problem with that one is, if this portal, if this was procured outside, it was not built here in Uganda, it would mean that on an annual basis you pay license fees. And if you're not, and it is very damn expensive for all these softwares that we have procured externally. So we have our source code here, so we can always manipulate and improve it the way we want it. And that was the best part also. So the procurement process is going to be more transparent, and we were able to know if they gave you to construct that road for only 2 years, 3 years down the road, what is your problem?
You said you do it in 18 months?
In 18 months. So what is your problem? We know who is this person who has won a road. Is he, do we know them? Who is he exactly? So that at least we know there was no kickbacks, so that a company belongs to a government official, a minister, those kind of things. So it's a very good thing. 50% of problems are really going to be to be solved. But I think we need a price list for the government of Uganda and a standard of what we want. What type of pen do we want in this country to use? Of course, there are so many other pens, but as a government of Uganda, this is the kind of pen we want. Like how public service says, this is the kind of vehicle you should buy, although I don't know who enforces that, because now you see one driving a Mercedes-Benz, another one is driving
a
Kia.
Yes, actually. I'm also surprised that you now see cars and say,
we have a standing order.
This used not to be government vehicles.
Yes, we have a standing order, Minister of Public Service. And I think our friend, Honorable Mulira, really should come up and help us on these things. Because everybody is driving anything and everything. And this costs money. So as a government of Uganda, you want to come up and say, for us as a government...
Is there a standard price for a car, for example? And say maybe a government car should be 300 million shillings, for example?
There is a standard for vehicles. We need to check that, but I know there is a standard for vehicles, but it is not being enforced.
Because they are now different cars.
They are now different cars.
It's fashion now.
You need to say, as a government of Uganda, we will buy a RAV4, for example. And a RAV4 will buy a car of these specifications, 1, 2, 3, 4. And for this particular financial year, the vehicle should not be more than 300 million.
The RAV4 that you want to buy?
The RAV4 that you want to buy. You might not actually not say RAV4, but you can say, we want a 2000cc car, a 4-seater, it takes diesel or fuel, it must be manual.
4-wheel drive.
4-wheel drive, and you put it there. Whoever wants to buy, if you want to buy a Kia, let it have those specifications. But the price must not be more than this. Because you see, it might have the same specifications, but the price ranges. I mean, a Mercedes-Benz, a 2000cc Mercedes-Benz, and a RAV4 2000cc Mercedes, I mean, the prices would be different. So you do that and cap the price, so that everybody falls below that particular price. But if you leave it open, let me tell you, that's why you find, you go in a budget, you find that there is a budget of a vehicle of 1.2 billion. Do
we have those cars in this country?
Yes, those cars are there.
A vehicle, or you're talking about a Mamba?
No, you are going to see a 1.2 billion car on the road soon, very soon.
You're not talking about a Mamba. You're not talking about.
I'm talking about a government vehicle. Red number plates. You will soon see them on the vehicle, on the and government.
1.2 billion.
And that, of course, there are no taxes on that. If you add taxes on that, you are talking in 2-point-something billion per car. You will see again. You come and see a car of 100 million being driven, red number plate, and you wonder, and these don't they belong to the same government? Don't they belong to the same country? Don't they pick money from the same consolidated fund? Who approves these different figures?
Yes, because we've seen chikumis with the red number plates.
So that is the challenge this budget is going to face, distortions. Because you have no standard of goods and services you want to procure as a government. That your standards are everywhere. In fact, sometimes they say, oh, we are going to base ourselves on international standards. You are not international, you are Uganda. International standards are good, but if you can't afford them, please go low. Cut your cloth by its size. That's what they tell us. I would have loved to drive a Mercedes-Benz, but if you don't have that money, can I get the minimum? Take me from point A to point B.
Okay.
That is it. That's what you're looking out for. You want to facilitate, because if you do that, each and every person in your department is actually going to be facilitated. So lack of a standard in this country, a national standard for the goods and services, is what is going to affect this particular budget. And I think the president needs to look at that. The Ministry of Finance also needs to look at that. If somebody is traveling abroad, you know these tickets, a ticket. From here to Kenya, a ticket can range from $200 to $1,000.
$1,000, yeah.
Why would you want to approve a ticket of $1,000 for the person to go to Nairobi? Same
amount of time.
Same plane.
Same plane, same amount of time.
Same time.
45 minutes. Entebbe, Jomo Kenyatta International, and you're in Nairobi.
If you don't put a standard, then you'll have people, everybody wants to be in a business class.
For 45 minutes.
And for me, I just don't understand that you want to do that for a country where you have a budget of 44 trillion and your revenues are 25 trillion. You don't have enough money to cover the entire budget. You have less.
But you want to spend.
But you want to spend as if you are a very rich person.
Okay. Finally, Julius, you know, this is what you do every day. You live it, and you know, a budget is the bloodstream of any government.
Oh yeah.
Without the budget, then the rest of everything is just a waste of time.
Those members of parliament wouldn't be there.
Nobody would actually be anywhere they are. Finally, look at the camera and tell us, and how should we brace ourselves for the next year? Because we are here by the grace of God. We live every day, and we actually all of us ask God for life every day. We want to be alive. Whether there will be food today, no. But you can't say there's no food tomorrow, so die today and somebody lies. They will say, they made it, but let me be alive. I will see what comes next week.
No, there are good things in the budget. I think sometimes probably we are taken over by the negative part, the challenges, not negative, but the challenge that we face. I think there are good things. Like for example, I said we have the parish development model. I think for me, let's go to the villages and wait for this money and get prepared, because I think for me it's going to be a game changer if it is done correctly. I mean, the other element is that Uganda, we seem to be an island of peace. If you look at what other countries are going through, I wouldn't want to be to belong to our neighbor in the north. Neither do I want to be in our neighbor, in the east. Really, I know I can live from here. I go to my home, I sleep, I wake up in the next morning. Despite, of course, the challenge that I'm not saying that everything is well. No, but at least there is that. We are looking forward to that. But I think for me I'm telling Ugandans, please, that hospital there, health center, that primary school, that water point, does not belong to President Museveni, neither the LC5 chairperson. It belongs to you.
Sure.
Make sure it functions.
Sure.
And demand accountability for it.
Thank you.
And if we don't do that, let me tell you, the little money that we make as a nation is going to be wasted.
Thank you.
It's up to each and everybody's responsibility to monitor how resources are being used at that particular level.
Well, thank you so much, Julius Mukunda from the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group. And our budget is coming on next week. We're just counting a few days, but tomorrow His Excellency the President will be speaking to the nation to give us a State of the Nation address. And remember, it is a State of the Nation address, of course, that precedes the budget reading that will come on next week on Tuesday. Tomorrow, UBC TV will, of course, bring you live the coverage that will be coming in from Kololo, and we just implore you to be a part of that. But just as Julius says, here is where we are. We just need to take responsibility and, of course, demand for accountability. Let's get back. Let's cause our leaders to account for each and everything that they actually do for us, because they are our leaders and everything that they do is actually for us. We stop the conversation here for today and just wishing all the best. For God and my country, stay blessed. Shalom.
Hello.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.